Welcome to this. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I am so glad to see you all. I'm grateful for Dr. Una for doing this live Q&A. So many of us have questions about the business school, and we have questions about what happens in the business school. So I thought this would be very impactful. And Dr. Una has agreed to do this. She's take time out of her schedule to get this done. So I thought it would. So I am really grateful for that. I will start off first by introducing myself a little bit. Dr. Una is really gracious and always, mentioning Makita, Makita. So if you've heard her say Makita, either on the podcast or in the emails, I'm the Makita. Like I said, she's so gracious and in doing that, because I really consider it really an honor to work with EntreMD. What the brand is doing for physicians is unbelievable. You know, I get a bird's eye view of what's happening in the school and what's happening in the physician community. And it seems like it's such a disparity between what's happening in the business school and what's happening in the physician community. It's almost like the people in the EntreMD business school live in an alternate reality. I know that sounds a little weird, but it's the absolute truth. They are, while other physicians are worried about their practices, shutting down their practices, worried about insurance reimbursements, the doctors in the EntreMD Business School, they're actually negotiating for higher insurance reimbursements. They're actually getting thriving practices. They're actually building practices that are going to help them have not only a dream business but also a dream life. So I to see all of that, and what I do in the business school is I'm the client success manager. So if you join the school, you and I would have a lot of great interaction. The first thing that would happen is that I would have a conversation with you about your goals. I mean, the EntreMD brand is all about helping you reach your goals and helping you reach them in a profitable way. So I would meet with you, help you reach your goals, talk to you about them, and then we develop a plan based on what's happening in the business school. The business school has so many avenues and so many amazing physicians in it that will help you reach your goals, not to mention the strategic coaching from Dr. Una. Dr. Una is going to tell you a little bit more about that. But I follow you, in your journey. And like I said, it has been such a privilege all these years. I've worked with Dr. Una for, gosh, it's been about 11 years. It's been an honor. I worked with her even when she had her private practice. So I can tell you, if anybody would know if these principles that she's teaching would work, I would know, because I mean, I've seen them firsthand. I've seen her try them and use them, and I've seen her build two amazing seven-figure businesses with them. And I've also seen her heart for physicians and the physician community, and making sure that physicians have options. You don't have to be at the mercy of big corporations. You don't have to be at the mercy of hospitals. You really can live the life that you want. You really can practice medicine the way you dreamed of. Many physicians that I talk to are so disenchanted with medicine. But in business school, it's a different thing. So I'm glad. Thank you, Dr. Una, for doing this tonight, because I want to be sure that as many physicians as possible get this opportunity to live life and practice medicine on their terms, the way they want, the way that speaks to them, the way that makes them happy, the way that provides time for their family and for the things that matter most to them. So this is going to be great. So no holds barred tonight. Ask your questions. Let us know what you think. Anything we want to know. We want to make sure that you are making a quality decision based on what what your goals are. So ask us anything. Dr. Una has agreed to stay on until we get these questions answered. So we're very excited. Thank you for everyone that's joined so far. And Dr. Una, can you go ahead and just reintroduce yourself?
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Makita. Makita is the one running the show today. She's the boss of me. So if we have not met, my name is Dr. Una. I am a pediatrician by training, and but in a stage of my life where my primary role is helping doctors build profitable businesses so they can live life and practice medicine on their terms. I do that through EntreMD, which is this company. We do it through our podcasts and our books and our live events, workshops like the ones we just completed, and of course, the EntreMD Business School, which is a school we set up about 3.5 years ago at this point, which has really been a gift to the physician community. We're in a space where we are living in an alternate reality where what life could look like, very different from what we're seeing in the healthcare space. I've been married for 17 years. I have 4 little ones, homeschool the older two. Yeah, which is a lot of fun. So that's me, and I'm happy to answer questions. What I don't want is for people to be undecided. The goal of this is at the end of it, you should say absolutely, this is my best next step, or absolutely not, right? Like I want everybody to be able to leave with a firm decision. So yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Una. Anybody excited to be here? I see some familiar faces. I see Dr. Barbara, my newest friend. We've been friends for about 2 months. I see a lot of wonderful here. We just spoke today. So good to see all of you. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start the questions with Dr. Una, but feel free to type any questions that you want to know. Now, Dr. Una, I don't know if you're ready to do this, but I think we should just talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about one of the things that people often say, right? One of them is, you know what? This is a big investment. The EntreMD Business School is a big investment, and people are, a lot of times I have people ask me, well, I'm just not sure, either if they have a new business, they're wondering if how they can make this investment, but if they have an established business, they're wondering, I've tried other things in the past and they didn't work out, so how is this one going to be different? Bottom line, the investment is big. What do we tell the people?
All right, so a lot of the things, the way I've lived my life is really, I make myself the guinea pig, and I'm like, hey guys, this works, let's go do it, and that's kind of how I've lived it. So I'll start off with this story, and many of you have heard this story before, but I just want you to lean in and listen to it, right? Now, I was in the same boat that, most people who are in the middle of their decision were, are in. And this was in 2017. And at this time, if you think back to that time, there are not a whole lot of communities. If there were, but, I was an introvert. I wasn't part of any of them. I didn't know anything about coaching. I didn't know anything about consulting. I didn't know anything about that world out there. And so this was at that stage where I was like, medicine is changing, and I can't stay the way I am. Like I need to layer on more skills. I need to be able to completely replace my income as a physician. I need to, if things go the way they're going and what we're doing is devalued, like, can I be in control? Right. And so I went for an event, and it was about speaking. And I was like, this is amazing. It's a 3-day event. And so day one, they're teaching us all the things. Day two, they actually had us, do some speaking on stage. Day three, then they talked about this program that they had. And it was a speaker's mastermind. And so they started talking about the program. This is what you get. That's what you get. And I was so excited. I was like, oh my goodness, if I do this, how amazing will it be? And I was excited up until they said, okay, and your investment for this program is, and the number they quoted was $43,000. And I was blown away. I'm like, $43,000? I'm like, for what? Like, is it laced with gold? Am I missing something here? And I remember thinking about it, and I had to stop. I said, okay, hang on. The thing you're wanting to do, have these people done it? Yes. You've been here for 3 days. Have they been able to demonstrate that they can transform your life? Like, you went through a process, and in 3 days, you're different. Like, you know more things. You've gained new confidence. You've gained new skills, all of that. I'm like, yes. okay, so they've done it. Have they done it for other people? I'm like, yes, I've seen people who were their clients. Okay, so they've done it for themselves. I have evidence that I changed, right? And then they've done it for others. And so I was like, you know what? I'll do it. Like big gulp. And I'm like, it's not like I kept $43,000 anyway. You know what I mean? But I was like, we'll work it out. I did the payment plan. I think it was 4,300 a month or something like that. And and this is the point, right? Like we have the benefit of hindsight now. So this was 6 years ago. And after that, I went on to launch EntreMD. And so here I am with a very successful practice. Here I am able to then do what I wanted to do, which is help doctors and all of that. So that moment was a defining moment for me. And out of that moment has come the EntreMD podcast that's about to hit 600,000 downloads. Out of that has come events that I've hosted. We've had as many as 1,000 people in our events. We demonstrated life change. Out of that comes the EntreMD Method book, right? That has sold thousands and thousands of copies, and we still sell copies every single day. Out of that has come the EntreMD Business School that has served over almost 300 doctors at this point. And in a school where, I mean, the results don't even make sense. Like we have people who have broken records, like they crossed 7 figures in their first year or first 18 months or whatever, right? People building solid businesses, leading teams, taking vacations with their family once a quarter while leading a multi-million-dollar company, all this crazy stuff. So I have to ask myself, what if I said no to the 43,000? What is that? EntreMD was on the Inc. 5,000 list of fastest growing privately held companies for 2023. And so what if I gave that up? What if I was so so hooked on the $43,000 that I couldn't see all these other things, right? And so for everybody here, whether you come into the business school or not, I do want to invite you to start looking at the investments in yourself differently. What is expensive is not the investment. What is expensive is the opportunity cost, right? Like it's 43,000 versus all the things that have happened over the last 6 years. See, I will pay that 43,000 every single day and twice on Sunday. And I am at a stage, and I'm not saying you should do this. This is not a metric. This is what I do. There isn't a year I invest less than $100,000 in coaching or in program at my education, all this. So there isn't, because now I understand that I am my best appreciating asset. And when I get better, everything gets better. When I get better, there are things I never dreamt of doing that I can now do, right? So it is, you'll never really hear me call it an expense, because it is not an expense. It's an investment, right? So that's the way I look at it. And truthfully, I will tell you, in the last 2 weeks, I've had 2 people, and these are people who are very successful entrepreneurs that I really, really respect, go like, I don't understand why you're charging $25,000 for this school. You need to change the price. Like literally, like this has happened twice in the last 2. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Goodness. Wow.
what are you doing? Like, this is too much value for that. And I'm like, I hear you, but right? And like, what is the alternative? Like, I don't invest in myself, and then what? When we don't change something, nothing changes, right? Like, what is that? Or you say, I want to get an MBA. In my university here, that's of 140 grand. And their promise is, the average student, after they're done with this program, they are able to earn $160,000, right? As executives. You already earned that, right? So why would we do that, right? And some people get an MBA, and that's fine. I'm just trying to say, if what you want is to build a profitable business, life on your terms and all that stuff, that's not the promise of the business school. They're not, well, the EntreMD Business School, but an MBA, that's not what they're promising you. They're promising you a high-paying job, right? And so we've been there, done that. We have 72 t-shirts. We don't need to do that. So I know I took time with that, but I think it's important that we start shifting, right? It's the investment we made into ourselves that made us doctors. We paid 250 grand, then we became doctors, right? We became different people who had different skills, who could accomplish great things, who had a high earning power, all of that stuff. Now it's time to make a different investment. It's not 250,000. It's like 10% of that, right? So if we could do 250,000 when we were much younger, we can do 10% now that we're older, right? So it's just about, we need to stop thinking in that way. the ultra successful don't think that way. They're actually looking for people like, this is the way I want to change. Who do I pay to make this change happen? That's literally the way they think. That's literally the way I think. Like, there's this skill I need to acquire. This is what's required for the next level.
Mm.
I don't know how to get there. I'm like, who do I pay? Like, but I'm like, who's the person? So it's not about the money, it's about the who, right? Like, so, and I look for the same three things. Have they done it for themselves?
Mhm.
Have they done it for others? Is there evidence that they can do it for me? If I see those three things, boom, I'm done. So yeah, that's what I got, Makita.
Wow. That is so awesome. I feel like we should just see if anybody else has questions in the comments, but about the investment. Well said, Dr. Ruin said, you know, when you think about it, I had like when you were speaking, I had like an equation in my mind. 43,000 equals, $1 million business, $1 million, events, two books, 300 physicians that have had tremendous life change. To me, that life change, helping people get life transformation is priceless. I mean, it's priceless, right? Some of them are even in the top 1% of the field. Inc. 5,000. I mean, all of that from $143,000 investment. So that's definitely that does not equal. It doesn't equal. It's 43,000 with the line across the equal thing, because you just can't compare, like you said, Dr. Ono, you just can't compare that investment to everything that has come out of it. And one of the things that I think, as an entrepreneur, and when I speak to doctors, it's very few doctors that I speak to that don't want their people to get life changed, that don't want to see people living better, that don't want to see transformation. The better you are at what you do, the more you can impact people exponentially. You know what I mean? So if you really want to impact lives, this is how you do it. You start by investing in yourself. If you really want people to have better quality of life, invest in yourself more. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for answering that, Dr. Ona. For anyone that just joined, feel free to put your questions in the comments. We want to hear from you. And we're going to keep going. One more question I have for you, Dr. Una. Sometimes when it comes to the business school, I find that sometimes people are thinking, well, you know what? I'm hearing you, Makita and Dr. Una. The business school sounds fantastic. I mean, really, there are even people that know people in the business school. They know some of the students and some of the crazy wins that they've had, but they just somehow feel like it's not the right time. Now, is there ever a right time, or is there somebody that we should tell to wait? I mean, sometimes people say it's not the right time because they feel like there's some things they need to do in their business, or for people who are already established, they may feel like, there's a transition happening in their business. Maybe they have a second seven-figure business and they feel like they need to make a transition before they do something else. So tell me about that. How do we answer that?
Yeah, so I mean, anybody who's been an entrepreneur for any amount of time, well, who's a veteran, right? They understand that the transitions and the challenges and the problems and the things happening in your personal life that would get in the way and all of that, they're always going to be there, right? Like, so those don't go away. We get better, right? Like, so Makita, if you think about, the school, there are people who've joined the school and they have an 8-month-old baby. And
Mhm.
it's like, this is definitely not the right time. But they had the understanding that the better I am as an entrepreneur, the more I up level my entrepreneurial skills, the more I can weather challenges and weather storms, because those are not going anywhere, right? The time not being perfect, that doesn't really go anywhere. So we've had people do that. And we've had people who had health challenges and they started. We had people who are in their 50s and 60s and they're like, I don't know, right? Like, if it's, should I be doing this and all that? And they've come in and they've rocked it. We've had people who are having personal challenges. We've had people who are working full-time jobs. So there are all of these things going on. Those things don't go away. When you see a very successful entrepreneur, if you see them online, you are seeing a highlight reel. And I want you to understand that behind that, there are challenges, right? But the better we get as entrepreneurs, the better we are able to navigate it and do what we need to do. So things don't get better, we get better, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes people will say, well, the reason why this is not the right time is I don't have the time. And I'm like, yeah, but you see, that's part of what we learn as entrepreneurs. How do we manage time? How do we work from a CEO calendar? How do we learn how to prioritize? How do we identify the thing that moves the needle so we end up accomplishing so much more by doing a lot less? Now, these are all entrepreneurial skills, right? So the solution for not having time to be in the business school is to join the business school to learn how to have the time to do what you mean, right? It's like, so there is no right time. It's like having a baby. It's like all the stuff. Like there isn't a right time. We make it the right time, right? We make it the right time. That's what we do.
Okay, that is awesome. Thank you, Dr. Una. And we've seen people do it over and over again. We've seen people make it the right time and make it work for them over and over again because, like we said, it's a matter of making that decision. Um, Dr. Bonjour asked some questions, and I really think what we should do based on the questions, if you don't mind, Dr. Una, could you give us an overview of the school? The question here is, what exactly do you offer in terms of support and structure specifically to help scale a medical practice? Or do you want to do the question separately? Do these questions separately
Yeah,
and then do an
let's do
overview?
separate. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the first thing is, what exactly do you offer in terms of support and structure specifically to help scale a practice, medical practice?
Okay. So first of all, let me talk about this specifically to help scale a medical practice. And again, this is something that I want people to invite people to think about a little separately. When you come into the EntreMD Business School, you will notice that what we have in common is that we're all physicians and we're all in business, but there are multiple types of businesses represented in the school. So you'll see private practice, insurance-based, you'll see direct primary care, direct specialty care practices, you'll see coaches and consultants, people who are primarily paid speakers, and people who have product-based businesses. Now, someone may say, well, I think it would be better if I was just in a group of all private practice people. And what I have found is being in an environment with people who are in different kinds of businesses gives you an unbelievable advantage because what we innovation, innovation, right? A lot of times is not a new thing. It's rarely a new thing, right? Innovation, a lot of times in entrepreneurship, in business, is somebody taking something that works excellently in one industry and bringing it to their own industry. For example, in my private practice, in the middle of the pandemic, one of the things that was our saving grace was we took all the email marketing stuff that people do online and then we brought it into our practice, right? And so the same email marketing that people use, like consultants use to get clients and all that, that's what we use to keep our practice busy. So in 2020, like in the real pandemic, after a while, the pandemic, like we knew what COVID was, there was a vaccine, all that, but there was a time when it's like, what is happening? That was 2020, right? And in 2020, we did better than in 2019. And it was because we were able to take all these things from different industries and bring it into our private practice, right? So the first thing to understand is that it's not a school for only private practice. We're about, I want to say we're about 35% insurance-based private practice and about 15% DPC, something like that. Okay. So that's the first thing. So let's talk about, so when we think about the school, we're thinking about how do we build how do we build a business that is an asset, which means ultimately, when I'm ready to exit, I've built an asset that can work without me that I can exit from, right? So whichever type of business, this is where we're going. We're focused on marketing, we're focused on sales, we're focused on building systems, and we're focused on team. This is something that is universal, all right? Okay, so as far as the structure, what the different things we do, the first thing is a call, is our weekly live sessions. This happens every Wednesday at 7 p.m. And so it could be a coaching call where we're, like answering questions and troubleshooting, things like that. It could be a thing where we're doing direct training, like how do you build out your 90-day plan for your business? or how do you build your team, or how do you do an effective interview, or like those kind of things. But we have different kinds of meet, but we have a live session. I probably do, I don't know, Makita, 99% of those. Sometimes we'll have a guest and, things like that, but we have that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we have what we call success groups. And these groups are really, it's a almost 1 hour session. It is about implementation. Now, if you're here and you're honest, you realize sometimes we know the things to do, but we just don't do them, right? We're like, where do I get the motivation? And the bigger impact the action is, the more likely we are to procrastinate on them. So this is a place where we come in and we work, we implement. So it's like you working with your peers, but doing the thing that moves the needle the most in your business, right? So that's the second thing that happens every week. The third thing is we have monthly challenges. And the idea behind the challenges is for you to do those things that are the most difficult to do, but move the needle the most in your business. So we are in the last week of a challenge, last week because Thanksgiving's next week, last week of a challenge called Eat That Frog Challenge. And in that, we do some mindset work, and we do, like, we eat frogs, okay? So if you read Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy, you understand those are your 20% activities, the most significant activities. And I kid you not, like, people are doing the most unbelievable things and getting massive results. And it's just from the monthly challenge. So we do that every month, a different one every month, to keep you in momentum. Okay, so that's the third thing. The fourth thing is we have a book of the month. This is curated. And these are books that will either help you acquire new skills, acquire a new way of thinking, shatter all the glass ceilings that are in your way, those kind of things. And then because you're doing it in community, there's conversations around them, there's, workshops done on them, and all of those kind of things. We have our in-person retreats. We just had one last month in Fort Lauderdale and in Florida. And, it really is about, it was a vision retreat. So this was about setting our vision for the year and all of those things, and the master plan that will get us there. Our in-person events are like unbelievable. They're very transformational. And so we get that as well. And then one of the most profound things is the private Facebook community that we have. It is, I think it's the most positive place on Facebook for physicians. And it is a place where there's true collaboration. There's no competition. There's true collaboration. There's true support. And there's an unbelievable level of positivity and possibility, right? And so you have people come in, share a win. We cracked our first million. Then they'll do a debrief. This is what we did to get there, right? Or they'll say, I did my first $100,000 launch. This is what we did to get there. I just hired a physician and a nurse practitioner, even though it had been so hard to do. This is what I did to get there. So it's almost like you have these sessions on Wednesday, but you have all these little master classes going on the whole time. It's a place where people are vulnerable enough that they can talk about the challenges they're having in their businesses, because everybody has challenges in their business, right? The challenges they're having, and there's no judgment. There's no judgment. People come out of the woodworks. People come to open doors for other people. People come to create connections for other people. They share resources. And so, we call the community the EBS Commonwealth. And the reason why we call it the Commonwealth is like almost anything you're looking for is either in the room, or the person who knows where to find it is in the room, right? And so it gives you access to, all kinds of resources. And so there is a place where you can get so much support and help and all that. So these are like the different, things that we do. Some people are like, whoa, that's a lot. But over the years, you will hear people sharing the biggest wins. We just had someone share, her first year in private practice, she crossed the $1 million mark. And she's like, I do about 30% of what the school has to offer, right? So it doesn't mean you do every single thing every single time. I don't know that that's possible, but it is robust enough and intentional enough and proven enough that if you do as much as you can for the stage of life and business that you're in, you will get the results you need. Okay, so I know that's a lot, but that's kind of the framework for that. Now, the second question here is there a contract? So the answer to that is yes. And what is the cancellation policy? So because of the way we've built the school and because of the community that we've built, one of the things that makes us get the results that we get is the commitment level of the people who are in the school. Okay. And so because of that, we don't do a trial. People have asked, like, can I come and try the school? We don't do trials because entrepreneurship is doable, but entrepreneurship is hard. You will have reasons to quit. And so if you have a plan B, if you have a quit plan, you're going to engage the quit plan. You know what I mean? Like, so really our recommendation is if you don't feel like I can go all in on it, we're okay to support you in other ways, right? Like to support you on the podcast, or maybe you want to do a VIP day or any of those things. We're happy to support you that way. But we say, come into the school when you're ready to give it a 1-year commitment, like minimum. We have people who've been in the school since 2020. They have their own hashtag, EBS for life. But we recommend that you come when you're ready. That's the recommendation that we have. So we do not have a cancellation policy. Then the third thing is the 25K the only service option, or are there other options? So we have a higher tier that is for people who have crossed the $1 million mark and are still interested in hyper growth, and they truly want to build, like sustainable businesses that are like well-oiled machines that they can walk away with. So at this level, we're more focused on profits. We're focused on team. We're focused on systems. So now you're, like you don't just have a business that's profitable. You have a business that's an asset. Like if you wanted to sell it, you could sell it. If you wanted to walk away, you could walk away. And so that tier is called EBS scale. So if that's something that you're interested, you can reach out to Makita. She can give you more details on that. But we have another tier for that. So I hope that answers it. If there are any follow-up questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Hey, Dr. Bajor, did you have any follow-up questions? Let us know. EBS scale. Okay, great. So just send me a direct message and let me know. Send me your phone number or email with a direct message, and I'll get in touch with you about EBS scale. But were your questions answered? Did you have a follow-up question? Okay, we'll do. Okay, thank you. So glad to hear from you. Nice to meet you. So just go ahead with the next question, Dr. Una. We have a question from my new friend, Dr. Banayet, and she says, I am a new entrepreneur. I decided to put up a wellness company in July. Congratulations to you. And my med spa is currently under construction. It will open on February 2024. Will this course teach me how to hire the right people? I also need help in marketing and branding. And the goal is to have clients scheduled when I open so that it will be profitable from day one.
Well, I mean, Makita, I'm not mad about that plan, right? Like I'm all for it. Okay, great question, Dr. Rika. So this is the deal. The areas of focus for the business school would be your evolution as an entrepreneur, right? We got all this training and made us physicians. We need a different set of trainings to make us entrepreneurs, right? So your evolution as an entrepreneur, marketing, sales, systems, and team. Okay, so those are the areas of focus. So usually when somebody is starting a new business, there is the hiring part, but the marketing and sales part is really paramount. And what we say is, if you know that you're going to be opening in February of 2024, then the time to actually start working on it is now. In EntreMD, we call that the business before the business, right? So your business is to build out that brand, build out the awareness, build relationships with the referral sources, do all of those things, start getting people on wait lists, like all of those things, because our thought process has been, my practice starts when my practice starts. But your practice starts when you make the decision to start your practice, right? Like, so you want to have that. So we've had, it's so funny, September, what was this, 3 years ago? Mm-hmm. September 3 years ago, we had a VIP Q&A session just like this. And Dr. Karen Kaufman came on and she says, I think I'm starting my practice in a few months. And I was like, no, I mean, like, that's great, but you start working on that now. And, you know, she was like, okay, great. And she joined the school after that meeting. And she started working on her brand. She started working on her wait list and all of that. So she started her business in January of 2021. And she started with 350 people on a wait list. And she had like 260 or so of them scheduled. So on
Scheduled.
day one, she had 17 patients and she has never slowed down. Like she started in 2021. Now she has another doctor, she has a nurse practitioner, and she's just been going. But she started before she started, right? So yes, that's kind of the way that will play out. You'll definitely, the best way to start would be to start now. Because you have 3 months, well, barely 3 months to go. Yeah.
And I love all of the people that have been doing the business before the business, because not only do they start profitable, they stay profitable. I mean, they stay busy. There's not one of them that did that hasn't stayed busy and it's still busy up until now, and it's also, Dr. Una, we've also had people who had direct primary care practices who did the business before the business and still had the same level of success. So it's really, fantastic. Like Dr. Una says, why put it to chance? Why hang up the shingle and hope they'll come? Why do that when you can know how to be, you can know that you're already going to be profitable because you've already got patients scheduled. After you do your open house, you've already got 200, 300 patients scheduled and some on your wait list that you can continue to keep contact with. So that was a great question. Thank you for that. Okay, and I believe, let's see, we have a few more questions.
I want to
Doctor,
give a big shout out to Dr. Elaine. She says, I had the opportunity to guest speak one night at EBS, and everything that Dr. Una said is 110% true. Really wonderful community. Dr. Elaine, we still talk about your session. It was so good.
thank you so much for Dr. Elaine. Let's give a shout out for her. Thank you so much. Now, Dr. Sarah Knight, another one of my good friends, she said, what if you don't know what services and products you want to offer?
Okay, so um, I'll answer this with a few stories. But first of all, the overarching concept is this: every physician already has a business. It doesn't matter whether you've registered an LLC. It doesn't matter if you have an idea or not. We all have businesses. And our very first business is our personal brand. Okay. There are people who run multi-million dollar businesses, and that business is their personal brand. So you may be here and you're like, I don't want to ever leave my job. We don't recommend you leave your job. We recommend you become an entrepreneur. Like, you know what I mean? Like, wherever you want to do it from, we're okay. We literally had a doctor. She came for the vision retreat, and she's been in the school for a little over 2 years, and she works a full-time job. And she came up and she's like, Dr. Una, I've been doing everything you talked about as an entrepreneur. And she said, I have made the most money that I've ever made as an employed physician in all the years I've been a doctor, right? And this is because she learned to negotiate. This is because she learned to own her space. This is because she learned all the things, okay? And at the end of the year, she would have taken 12 weeks off. So I need you to understand this. This is an employed physician full time, 12 weeks off, and earned the most money. Why? Because she understood that she has a business. It's her personal brand. You see what I'm saying? So whether you know what you're offering or not, so this is specifically for you, Dr. Knight, even if you're not completely sure, you already have a business to start working on. And the thing about your personal brand, if you then decide, I want to be XYZ kind of consultant, your brand will support it. I want to start my private practice, your brand will support. It doesn't matter what you decide to do. Your brand is there I want to work my job, your brand will support it, right? So even if you're not completely sure, I want you to have this attitude of, oh, I'm here, I'm representing my company, Dr. Carolyn Knight Incorporated. Thank you very much, right? Like we all want to have that attitude. So we have a number of doctors who have come into the school and their thing is like, I know there's more. I don't know what more is, but I know there's more. There are a lot of programs who will say, oh, we don't want people like that in our program. But in EBS, we have people like that in our program. Okay. because this is what happens. So we had Dr. Leslie Golden. She shared her story today on Friday, and she came in knowing, okay, I'm working here. I'm a partner in a practice, all these things, but there's more, I think. And she literally spent the first year in EBS building out her personal brand. And she became this person where her panel was the biggest. She was speaking everywhere. She was getting all kinds of opportunities drop in her lap and all that. But she had been building these skills for a year. And she was like, you know what? I might could do this by myself. I'm like, you just might. So she started her private practice. She started on day one with 17 patients on the schedule. Within 6 weeks, she had to hire a nurse practitioner. And now she's hired another nurse practitioner. I'm talking April this year. She's hired another nurse practitioner. She hired on Friday, right? And she already has another physician in contract for March. How come? Because she focused and leaned in and built her personal brand like it was an actual business, because it is. Okay. Okay. Dr. Charuba, she came in, she's like, I'm not sure, there's more, but I don't know what more is. She built her personal brand. Then she said, I want to start my direct specialty care practice, right? And she's a surgeon. She's a GYN. And they're like, oh, we don't do that in the Bay Area. You can't do that, right? But she's an entrepreneur. So she starts her practice. End of year one, she has 100K in profits, right? How come? She built her business. So the point I'm trying to make is we all have businesses. And I would really love it if we all own that. Like, we all have businesses. Your personal brand is your business. And I'll just stop and say this here, like, no matter what business you're building, you never want to ignore your personal brand. It fuels everything else, right? But anywho, so if you don't know, you own what you do know. My personal brand is my business. You start working that. What you want to do will become clearer, and you didn't lose time. Because remember, I told you about Dr. Leslie. Within 6 weeks, she was so busy, she had to hire somebody else, right? And now, between April and October, what is that? 6 months? 6 months, she had to hire a second one. Why? Because she took the time to build her personal brand. So she didn't lose any time, right? Because every time you spend working on your first business, you're working on every other business you get. So everything will go faster, right? So I know that's a lot I throw at you, but you start with the business you do have, and you don't show up like, oh, I don't really have, like these guys, they really have a business. I don't no, you show up like big and bad like everybody else. This is my business. Yeah. So
Just
this
love
whole
that
point for that.
I love that you brought that up, Dr. Una, because a lot of times people wonder, like, if there's a little bit of indecision there, if they're going to lose that time, but you don't. You don't lose the time. How can you lose the time when you're building your brand? Because that brand is going to continue to speak for you and give you dividends, off of it. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Dr. Knight says, thank you. Dr. Christina says, is the retreat included? Oh no, her first question was, how often do you open cohorts?
Yeah, will it be fair to say it depends on my mood? I don't
Ah,
know. I don't know.
no, it's not. It's not.
Okay. If we look at the data from this year, it's about every 8 weeks, right? Yeah, it's about every 8 weeks. That's what it's been. I'm undecided for 2024, but we're not there, so it's okay.
When people ask me that, I have to be transparent. When people ask me that, I always tell them, now's the time to join. Don't think about the next cohort, because who knows what will happen then. If there's anything in your life that you feel is too much, like Dr. Una said earlier, by the time the next cohort comes, there's going to be something else. So, Dr. Christina also says, is the retreat included? And is there one-on-one? Is there one or more? Is there one or more than one retreat in the year?
Okay, those are great questions.
Mhm.
So the retreat is not included, because I don't own a resort. Okay, so the retreat is not included. It is a separate investment for the retreat. But you can ask the people who attended, but it's 1000% worth it. The school is complete in itself. without the retreat. I want to make that clear. It's not like, oh, there's this part of the curriculum you're going to miss out on, right? So the school is complete in itself without the retreat. But it's like, yeah, but I want to turbocharge what I'm doing, right? You have all your, like, if you can think of the Facebook group, the community, the way it is virtually, then imagine them in person, right? So the thing is that nobody else can come for the retreat except the people who are in the EntreMD Business School. Many people have been like, can I just come? I'll pay double. And I'm like, no, because the people in the school think a different way, they expect a different way, they support themselves a different way, and it's a very safe space where they can be as vulnerable as they need to be, and so we don't bring people who are not in the school in it. So that's a long answer. It is different, and there are 2 events a year. So in October, we start our year in October. So like, for the most part, the people in the school, the people who came for the vision retreat, they have their 2024 vision documented on paper with the plans to make it happen. So we start, so like Q4 is practice for Q1, right? That, the fourth quarter of the year is practice for the first quarter of 2024, so that we start ahead. That's kind of the plan. So we have that event then. And then we have another event in April, but that's more nuts and bolts. We're not visioneering at that point. It's like a business makeover mastermind. Like, okay, this 7 figures, how are we doing this? Whether it's your first or your next or whatever, like how are we doing that? How are we cracking that code? How do we troubleshoot your business? All of those kind of things. So it's more nuts and bolts, less vision, envisioning and things like that. So those are the 2 events. It's October and April. April is it's always been Atlanta. It's probably will always be Atlanta. And then the October one is somewhere by a beach. Yeah. So those are pretty cool.
Thank you, Dr. Una. Dr. Christina, let us know if your questions were answered, if you had a follow-up question. And you'll see that I posted the link for the business school. It's entremd.com /business. If you're thinking about the school, if what Dr. Una is saying is making sense, is resonating with you, it's really speaking to what you want in your life and what you want for your business, I want you to go ahead and do an application. It is not binding. You and I would just have a conversation and we'll see if the school is the right next fit for you. So entremd.com /business. Now we have one of my favorite surgeons. How are you, Dr. Ilana? Haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you. She says, I have a surgeon beauty shop. I want to build lots of things within it. I kick 5 soccer balls at once. Will this be allowed? In quotes.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, so nobody's gonna make you do anything. However, I have been a student of business for the last 14 years. I am an introvert, so one of my superpowers is the power of observation. Okay, so I've studied a lot of people, and I've studied a lot of businesses, and I've studied who ends up having longevity, who doesn't, what are the universal trends, and things like that. And I will tell you this: the biggest, most successful, sustainable businesses are the businesses that are kept simple. Simple is a new sophistication. Simplicity scales, complexity constraints. And so in the beginning of a business, I cannot, knowing what I know, recommend that you chase 5 balls at the same time. I cannot stop you, but it would be a disservice, knowing what I know, to say, oh yeah, absolutely, you can do anything. I will still tell you, the businesses that are doing the best, they start from 1. Amazon sold books for forever before he did all the things he's doing now. If he didn't obey that, it would have been hard. Because sometimes people tell me, well, I want to have multiple streams of income. I'm like, well, what you're building is multiple trickles. This is not multiple streams. You want to own one thing and make it a thing and graduate out of the thing and go to the next thing. Like, that's kind of the way it goes. So nobody will stop you. We will do what we can to give you the best chance of success, but I will tell you, my recommendation would be, we're going to have babies one at a time. So nobody will stop you. So it's allowed, air quotes, but I will give you my recommendation knowing what I know. Yeah.
And she followed up what about dreaming, experimenting time?
I'm
guess
not clear on what that means. What does that mean?
I think I think she may mean, will it be allowed for her to take that time to dream, maybe experiment with it? She will focus on one business, but experiment on the others or dream about the others. Let me know if I got that right, or if you want to unmute, you can
Yeah.
explain it.
Yeah. So
Oh, yeah, I can unmute. I don't know if, yeah, can you? Okay. Hey, yeah, so when I think about business and other business advice I got, and there's this part of committing that first involves some experimentation and like, hey, I'm going to try this. Oh, wait, I didn't really like that population, or I didn't like what I was offering or how I did it. And so there's this like, yes, trickle time where you're just like, hey, I'm going to like do little experiments and then figure out like, oh, yes, this is what I want to build. So are you like, maybe that's a little premature to join your program if that's the space that one is in, I guess is the question.
well, so everybody, even the big businesses you see, they're still doing that.
Of course.
Because business is a great experiment. That's literally what it is, right? And so the idea is, well, I have this one plan. I've worked it out as well as I can. Then I go execute it. I execute it long enough to say yay or nay, right? And then based on that, I can pivot and then keep going, right? Like, so for instance, I started helping everybody. And then I was like,
Right.
like all entrepreneurs, I'm like, this is not working. Then I came to EntreMD and I tried a 12-week program. I'm like, Lord have mercy, I'm never doing that again, right? And then because for my personality, that doesn't work. I'm a long game type of person. And then I said, okay, then I'm going to do this 9-month program, played around with it, like, this is good. Then the EntreMD Business School came. Do you see? So the experimentation, that's fine. But the experimentation is with one idea, going all in on it each time, as opposed to 5 at the same time. You see what I mean? So,
Got it.
so it's fine. It's not a problem.
And then for the experiments, how long do you give them before you're like, this isn't it?
Well, I mean, like it depends it depends on how big the pivot is, right? Like for instance, if I'm going from all entrepreneurs to only physicians, that's just a quick message change or anything. But if you're completely, you know, like if it's a completely different business model, if it's a bigger thing, you just want to give it enough time. There's no real answer for that. You know, when you've executed your plan and you're just like, yeah, this is not working. I can tell it's not 2 weeks, right? And it's not, you know what I'm saying? But it's not really possible to give an exact timeline.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can always turn in an application and kind of work that out with Makita, so you can have like, you know, your exact questions looked at, and then you can decide. Yeah, and nice to see you again.
Yes, it's good to see you. Thank you for your questions. Okay.
Makita, I do want us to, we're going to come
Okay.
back to this, but I do want us to talk about, you know, because some people will be thinking about, you know, how about my return on, like how can I get the most out of the program? Like who does the best? These results you're talking about, who gets the biggest results? You know, that comes up, and I want to talk about that for a second, and we're going to go back to what we have in the chat. You know, and so we've done this for 3.5 years. And like I said, I am a student of business. So I want to tell you, I want to talk to you about that. Now, the first thing is the people who are coachable. Okay. Because what we need to do as entrepreneurs is just different, right? Whether that's you like, I'm trying to hit my first million, I'm trying to hit my first 5 million, like whatever that is, it requires us to do things we haven't done before. It requires a different level of thinking. It requires learning new concepts. It requires being open to accept new content, right? So if you're the kind of person who is like, this is the way I've always done it, or, you know, well, that's good for them, but I'm not doing anything, like you're not even open to consider. You don't have to swallow everything and just do what you're told. That's not the idea. But that, you know, being open to those kind of things and trying new things and trying different things and actually hearing what is said, right? So the people who are coachable tend to do much better. I have doctors, you know, who are, you know, like 2.5 million, 3 million, all that. And it's so funny. They're some of the most coachable people. The workshop we just did, they're people who are in my program, who've been in EDS. And they will come to that and they'll sit down and they're running audits on their businesses and they're listening, they're paying attention. You would say a lot of people at that stage go like, there's nothing Dr. Una can tell me. Like, I know these things, right? But they're coachable, right? And so that's one. They're coachable. And if you look at some of them, I have friends who are very successful, but their coachability is insane. We're talking about people who are doing like multi 8 figures and stuff like that. And they sit and they're asking me questions. I'm going like, you know, like, what are you doing? And they're listening and they have notebooks and they're writing. You know, they're coachable. Okay. Doesn't mean they just swallow everything or whatever, but they're coachable. They're open. They want to learn. They, you know, so that's one. Two is, I've never really explained it like this, but people who are not resistant to what is. So I'll explain what I mean by that. Some people come in and they're like, well, the only thing that works for me is one-on-one coaching, but there's no one-on-one coaching in the EntreMD Business School. So there's no point staying for 12 months, deciding like the only way this will work for me is I have one-on-one coaching. It doesn't exist. So you're setting yourself up not to get the benefit of the program. Some people will say, well, everybody here, the things Dr. Una is talking about works for them. It doesn't work for my specific kind of business. I cannot tell you how you miss out on the innovation, you miss out on the breaks you can get, you miss out on everything, right? Because I built a coaching business, I built a private practice, I built a marketing agency, I built, like, there are all these kind of business, these, we talk about classic timeless principles. You may not do everything, but there are enough things that will work for your business. Like, don't resist what is, don't resist what is, you know? So you can look at the diversity of the group as a disadvantage. Meanwhile, the diversity of the group is like the biggest advantage for you, right? Okay, so that's number two. Number three, these people are people who are committed to their results. Okay, I have personally never lost money on a coaching program. It has never happened. It will never happen because I have decided on the results I want to get, and I'm looking for somebody who will support me so we can go get it, right? And so I'm not like, you know, the reason I just go, I'm all in. And so what that does is it puts me in a position where I have this no retreat, no surrender mindset, and I show up to get everything I can get from the program. I tell people, oh my goodness, use as much of the program as you need. Leverage the community, leverage the relationships in the community, leverage the live calls. When it's time to ask questions, put your hand up and ask questions. When it's time for the retreats, fly over there, go be there, go be transformed. I have never, even the ones that are not a good fit, I have not lost money on a program because that's my decision. Okay. So that's number, I have no idea what number that was. The final thing is that these are people who stay in conversation. So I'm having this challenge in my business. You have a whole room of rock star, unicorn level physician entrepreneurs who will support you, but you don't post, you don't ask questions, you don't raise your hand, you don't, like, nobody can read your mind. Nobody can do that, right? And so if you're having challenges, and there's nothing unique about having challenges, having problems, or any of that. Every entrepreneur has this. The more successful, the more zeros behind the challenge, but everybody has that. So you show up and you stay in conversation and you take all the help that you need, right? So the people who have these traits are the people I know do the best. They do the best in the school, right? Okay. All right. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Nikita, I got in your way. Dr. Nina, hi. I just saw her. Okay, sorry, Nikita, go ahead.
That was great because I get that a lot, to be honest, when I have conversations with physician entrepreneurs. They kind of want to guarantee. They want to, they want, can you, I know all these people are doing great, but is there a way that I can know that I'll do good? Or is there a way that you can kind of guarantee me that this program will work for me? You know, And you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, you make the decision that'll work for you. And then you even helped us to know what we can do to make sure that it works for us. Stay in communication, take responsibility for our results, for our own results. Don't be resistant to what already is, and be coachable. Unbelievable. Thank you so much, Dr. Unam. Love that. And I love the fact that you made the decision not to ever lose money in a program. That is so, so, so wonderful. Okay, Dr. Moose says to us, how do you manage peer perceptions of profit before service? I'd love to have my own online lifestyle medicine practice, but my generalist primary care colleagues are quite disparaging about self-promotion and niche marketing. Help.
Dr. Moore, are you in the UK? Are you in the US? She'll tell us in a second.
Okay.
Okay. New Zealand. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, in the world we live in, the physician world we live in, there are people who will look at you like you went to the dark side because you're an entrepreneur. There are people who will criticize you. There are people who will go to Facebook groups and talk all about you. It happens in New Zealand. It happens in the US. It happens in academic medicine. It happens everywhere. This is one of the reasons why it is very important. This is the reason why the EntreMD Business School, I picked that over a one-on-one program. Because even though we need to build the business skills, we need to be in a community that normalizes what we have to do as entrepreneurs, right? And it's because that exists. That's just there's nothing you can do to stop that. So people are going to do that. What is important is that you don't think that, right? So for instance, when I talk about the EntreMD Business School, do I feel yucky that I'm self-promoting and doing all of those things? I don't feel that way. I'm very clear that the EntreMD Business School, there is not a school like it. It is creating real life change. Like sometimes I wish I could take people on a tour to the Facebook group for the EntreMD Business School. So you can see the level. We're talking about people building businesses are profitable, they're building teams, they're growing their confidence as leaders, they now have their team members bearing the financial weight of the practice with them. They'll tell you, I'm in the best physical shape, I'm in the best mental shape, I'm in the best shape of my life. Some are like, I've been in therapy for years, this has done more for me than therapy has ever done. So when I do that, when I talk about the school, I don't feel like I'm being slimy and manipulative and I'm taking doctors' money. And people tell me that, like, that's what you're doing. You're taking advantage of doctors and all of that. I can't stop them. I just need to be clear on what I am doing. And what I am doing is I'm supporting physicians. I am giving physicians their autonomy back. I am giving physicians financial freedom, giving them time freedom. I'm giving them the ROI on their medical education, putting them in a position where they can reap the rewards of what they went to med school to do, right? And so I don't feel any kind of way. So you can't stop them, right? You can't stop them, but you need to make sure you are clear that you are giving a value, and the value you're giving is more than any money you can be taking from anywhere. So when you show up, you are selling, and you see selling as a good thing. For instance, for everyone who fills out an application, fills out an application, joins the business school, like, I know that your life will change. I know that your life will be different. I know that you're going to look back on this time and you're going to say, oh my goodness, I could not have believed it. There is a reason where there are people have been in the school for 4 years, 3 years, 2 years. There is a reason for this, right? So I'm very aware. Okay. So Dr. Moon, they may think that that's not a problem. If you think that, that's what will stop you, right? So it's important that you learn the value of what you're offering. It's important that you understand, you start seeing selling as service. It's important that you put yourself in a community of people who are doing this in their sleep. They're doing it for fun. They normalize this stuff. So while the people out there are thinking whatever they think, you have your own group of people who think like you, right? Yeah. So don't wait for them to change. They're not going to change. Even if they did change, somebody else will take their place. There will always be people like that. So yeah.
And the good thing too, Dr. Una, about the school is if you're someone like Dr. Mu and you're dealing with that at work, or you're dealing like that with your colleagues, sometimes to take that resistance by yourself can be quite difficult. But
Yeah.
if you have, yeah, especially if it's constant, because sometimes we spend more time with people at work than we do with our families, right? That's just the honest truth at some times. But if you have a supportive community that you can go to, like the Facebook group, and you're hearing more than one message, you're also hearing positivity on top of that, that really helps. Now, Jonah, I want to ask you a question that people always ask. In the school? It's an earth-shattering question.
Say
People
that
want to
again.
know how many people are in the
How many
school.
people? So
Yes.
so it's somewhere between, depending on the day, somewhere between 100 and 130. That's what we've been. And I'll tell you something funny. In the beginning, right, every time a new cohort will come in, I have to talk to this. I'm like, this is not a problem. Like, we're so amazing with just this number. Imagine if there were more, but this is not a problem. And it took I think the first year or year and a half, and then that's not an issue because nobody's like more people because they're like, I didn't know this person before. I look at the doors they open for me. I look at that like it's because it's a commonwealth. Now, is it going to be 2,000 people? It's not. It's never going to be 2,000 people. It's never going to be like that big, but it runs about 100, 130-ish thereabout. But it's, I mean, like it's 100 unicorns. It's so good.
The best. I mean, imagine being with all the top 1%, or top physicians in their fields. Many of them are. So it's really amazing. There are people that, like Dr. Una said, who've been in the school 2, 3 years, 4 years, and they say the community is the reason, one of the major reasons why they say, of course, they're getting results, right? But the community is another reason why they don't want to leave. So, Dr. Una, we just ask people to fill an application. Can we talk about the power of decision? That whole thing, like we definitely, you know, like, yeah, in your mind, you're thinking, definitely, I mean, this sounds really good, but then there's already so many other conflicting thoughts and maybe just not a feeling of ease. When you paid that 43,000, did you feel at peace?
No,
Were you joking?
no. I mean,
Did you feel like,
what have I
just
done?
just love that decision I just made? I just gave somebody $43,000 and I can't get it back. Did you feel like that? How did you feel, Dr. Kuna?
Well, you know what? I think I was nervous and excited. Like, so on one side, I was like, what have I done? And on the other side, it was like, well, what could happen? Because you don't know what you don't know. Let me tell you something. In 2017, it's not like I had a problem. Okay. In 2017, I didn't have a problem. I had a private practice. The private practice was very successful. I had a doctor who was working every Friday, I want to say. Actually, I think I had another doctor. I don't remember, but I was working 4 days a week. I was off every Friday. So I had a long weekend. So I have the husband, I have the kids, I have the practice, I have a long weekend every weekend. Life was good. There were no problems. It's just that I could foresee that if all I knew how to do was examine patient, like that technical quote unquote aspect of it, and I didn't layer on any other skills, I was like, with what is coming, I'm going to be out of luck. Now, understand this was 6 years ago. Like now it makes sense. 6 years ago it didn't make sense, but I knew. And so I was like, if I don't prepare for then, we're going to have an issue. And so I could have easily stayed the way I was. What I wouldn't have known is all the things that could have been possible. Okay. So I, for instance, have been on a sabbatical because I built a business system that can work without me. I've been on a sabbatical. December, it will be 2 years. I have not set foot in my physical building. I haven't set foot. But that is because I learned how to build a team. I learned how to make profits systemically. I learned how to market systemically. I knew how to create results through people. Um, and all of those things, that wouldn't have happened. So 6 years later, I could have, maybe I would have, I'm working 4 days a week. It's like super cool. Life is good. But I would have given up the fact that I built an asset that can work without me. There would be no EntreMD. I need you to understand the power of not making a decision. How do I put this? The pain of discipline is very little. I want to make an analogy here. Very little. Go to the gym, work out, all of that kind of stuff. The pain of regret is like 10 tons. It's like a lot, right? And so one of the best things you can do is engage the pain of discipline so you cannot have the pain of regret. In the same way you have investment, you have opportunity costs, right? The pain of the investment is little. The opportunity cost of what the investment could have created is just nuts. And so my advice to everyone would be to make a decision. And especially if you're someone like you've been listening to the podcast, you've been creating wins from the podcast, you've come for a number of workshops, you're getting wins from the workshop. So you have evidence that this stuff works, right? And you're just like, I don't know. Like, make a decision. Make a decision. Bet on yourself. Invest in yourself. I say this boldly because I've done this to the point that I am very clear that one of the reasons why I have an earning power is for me to create revenue to invest in myself. Like I'm very clear that I'm like Play-Doh. Like I'm not static. I'm not what I am. Like I'm Play-Doh. I'm raw material. And so the question is, how can I evolve? How can I morph? How can I do all of that stuff? And I understand I invest in myself to do that, right? So I had a mentor who said, it sounded really rough to me, but she'll say, indecision is a form of self-abuse. Indecision is a form of self-abuse. So in this moment, with the information you have, I want you to come to a point where you say, absolutely, or absolutely not. But yeah, you see there? Like if you have a question that is making you sit here, that's why we're here. Ask the question. So you can either be at absolutely or absolutely not. But we're burning daylight here, guys, right? Like we're not going to live forever. We're not going to have the opportunity to do what we need to do forever. Make the decision. You're like, I'm where I am. I've wanted to get out. What am I going to do? You have an opportunity in front of you, right? This, you have an opportunity for you. So you have a decision. You have a decision. It's the decision that makes the difference. So pick one. Absolutely, absolutely not, but own it, right? Look at it. Why am I making this decision? Okay, I've read the emails. I was there for the workshop. I listened to the podcast. I do all of that. I've been thinking about the school for a while. I will tell you, almost everybody that we invited to interview, people who are in the business school, they will say, the only regret I had is that I did not join earlier. The only regret I have is that I did not join earlier. Like learn from them, right? So don't not decide. You decided to be a doctor, it changed your life. It was a decision. Like what guarantee did you have that you would graduate? What guarantee did you have that you'll get into residency? You committed and you made a decision and you made it work. It's the same thing. And when I think about it, I'm like, if I devoted a decade of my life and I became this person who could save lives. What if I dedicated maybe not a decade, but maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years to become a savvy entrepreneur? When I combine the ability to help people with the ability to build business systems around it, so I have the freedom to continue to do it, I'm unstoppable. It means I can finally do what I've really wanted to do. Yeah. So decide. Like legit, just turn your application, really. Except you're absolutely not, then don't. But not from a place of indecision. Like, choose one. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. And when you're talking, I immediately started thinking about Dr. Mukanga. I interviewed her this past Friday, and I remember when I spoke with her on the phone, she had put in her application last October. So she's been a year, a little bit more than a year. She's entering her second year in the school. And the way she was talking then, she was afraid of the price, the investment. She was afraid of not getting her unique questions answered. And I think you addressed that already. She was afraid of how many people were in the school. I mean, she had so many reasons why she just shouldn't do it. But the pain of regret, I think, was starting to deal with her, because she started feeling like, but what if I don't do it? I don't want to have another year like I had last year. I don't want to relive the same year. And guess what? I mean, she has gotten to the point now that she's making 100,000. She's having $100,000 months, and from someone that was struggling in her practice and wasn't sure if she could even afford to pay the monthly option for the business school, which is 2,000, to now having $100,000 a month just a year later. So it's all about making the decision. And then Dr. Una always says, after you make the decision, you make it well, right? After you make the decision, you put things in place to make sure that you keep to your decision and that you're able to fulfill your obligations to yourself. Okay. Now, I'm going to check to see if I have any other questions. Are there any other questions? But while I'm doing that, go ahead and fill out your application. Again, it's just a conversation. That's it. That's all it is a conversation. Dr. Hidalgo was asking about the next cohort. Tomorrow, the next cohort has their orientation. The cart closes tonight at midnight. So if you've been thinking about it, make the decision. Now, if you get in your application after midnight, I will still talk to you. I'll still make you and I can still talk. You and I can still have a conversation. But now is the time. Join in with this cohort. Join in with other peers that are starting on the journey with you, and start your orientation together with them. Now, this is our final question, I think, Dr. Una. It's all about, somebody's asking, is this only for startup businesses? Somebody may wonder if this is only for startup businesses.
Yeah, so in the current state of the school, we have people from startup all the way to 7.5, I think about 8 million at this point. We'll see where it ends up at the end of the year. And so no, right? It's not necessarily about startups and things like that. And again, there's another tier, like you cross the $1 million mark and you're like 8 figures is kind of where I want to go. There's a separate tier for that. But my objective is to help people build businesses that are, again, well-oiled machines, self-sustaining, that they can exit. So the idea is not necessarily the goal is not to start. So even if you're starting, is start and grow and scale, like that's what it is, and set with the right foundation so that you can do that, right? So if the things that we talk about are things that will take you to like, we've had many people who came in with no business, and they took their business to 6 figures, 7 figures, multiple 7 figures, right? Like we've had many people do that. So no, we have a lot of very well established businesses that are represented in the school as well.
Yeah, and then that reminds me of Dr. Merritt. I interviewed her on Friday as well. You need to check out my Friday interview. If you have not checked out my Friday interview, go to the YouTube page and check it out. But anyhow, I spoke to Dr. Merritt on Friday, and she talked about how she was already making 7 figures when she decided to join the school. She was making 7 figures in her practice. There wasn't anything wrong with her practice. She just said that if she'd gotten to the point, and that usually happens when you get to $1 million business, right, Dr. Una, where if you don't do certain things, you'll kind of plateau, because your problems change. You got $1 million problems now. You have problems with team, you have problems with systems, you have problem with profits. So thank you, Dr. Una. You guys come and watch me. You guys watch me on my debut of my interview. But anyhow, so what she said is that she started the school when she was already making 7 figures. And we've had highly successful coaches also, Dr. Una, join the school. Coaches that have, making multiple 6 figures to 7 figures that have joined the school. So it's not a matter of where you're starting. It's just all about where you want to end up. And where we all want to end up is profitable business and a beautiful life, dream business, dream life. So I'll put the link to join the school one more time, depending on if you just joined, so that you have it. And again, it's just an application. You're not going to get an invoice after filling this application out unless you want one, but it's just a conversation between you and I. Dr. Una told us about the power of making a decision. When I think about all of the people in the school, all of the lives that were changed, let's just say we're looking at the 300 doctors or so that the school has touched. Now, each of those 300 doctors, they have businesses that are touching families, that, the people that work for them. Now, not only that, what about all of the patients that they're touching? What about those that are coaches? What about all the clients? And then those people, I mean, it's exponential. We can't even measure that. We can't even measure that, all from one decision. And your story can be the same. Any last words, Dr. Ono?
Yeah, I mean, like, so I think, the last word would just be decide. Like, please don't sit in the valley of indecision, decide. And even if you're unsure, fill out an application. Like Makita said, you won't get an invoice for the application, right? Like, but fill out an application, even if you're, when I say scared, I don't mean like if you're scared, like, oh no, I could never do something like that's okay. Like you can say absolutely not. But if you're like nervous but excited, like in that kind of place, like fill out an application, have a conversation. I mean, look at us. Nobody's gonna hard sell anybody on anything. We just wanna help you make a decision. There's when I look at the level of transformation in the people in the school, I really do wish that every doctor would have that experience, right? Because yes, the business wins are there, but to be in a position, there's a doctor, she's had her practice for years before she joined the school. She would never have meetings because she didn't feel confident to lead her team. She wouldn't go build a referral source. She would rather outsource it to a company who they didn't do a good job or anything like that. She didn't own her brand. She didn't do any of those things. But now she runs her team meetings like a boss. She's getting results through her team. Like she's untapped their potential. So there are things that like, doctor, get in line. We got this. We'll take care of it. And she can do that because she's grown as a leader. They've grown their profits. They're expanding their building. She's been able to take time off, and because she has young children, she's able to take time off with her children, and her spouse. And she realizes like, I can do what I dreamed of doing. You know what I mean? And so when you think about that, and you walk into another Facebook group and all the doctors are talking about how stuck they are, how nothing works and everything sucks, and watch people whose businesses just crumble. I wish for every physician that they would have the opportunity that these doctors have in the school. And it's getting to a point, Makita, which I realized, I was like, we have to figure out what we're going to do about that, where it now looks too good to be true. So people are listening, they're like, that doesn't sound right. Like it seems too good to be true. I have to figure out how to get those stories out there even more. But it isn't. You come in and you're coachable and you do the work, you'll be amazed. And the family you would acquire, I wish it for every doctor, like I really do. So fill out an application, and we would love to I would love to welcome you to the school and introduce you to your new classmates, and you come in a community of unicorns. It'll be great. But yeah, I would love to see you tomorrow at orientation. Um, yeah, that's all I got, Makita.
Thank you so much, Dr. Una. Dr. Mu had one more question. She said she's very grateful for the opportunity here, what we offer. I do not yet have my own medical practice and work outside of the USA. I hope to stay within the non-member community like this, as I'm not ready to go all in. My question is, what is the best way to get started? I guess with choosing a niche. I'm a GP with extra training in lifestyle medicine and nutrition, able to work in New Zealand and Australia, and just create something I love to have and just create something. I'd love to have an online business and serve more people. Currently low coming. Do not have enough money to join EntreMD school. Is it still worthwhile completing application to speak with Makita? I would say so. I would say it's still worthwhile to complete the application, Dr. Mu. So I'm going to just post it in the link again, and then we will go from there. Okay, there's a link again. Is this that? I see some people joined a little later, so it may not be showing for you anymore. Hey, this has been so great, Dr. Ona. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, as always, I always tell Dr. Ona she has such a brilliant mind, such a brilliant business mind. And she really is a genius when it comes to business principles and helping people get results. She's the real deal. Like I said, I've known her for more than 11 years. And if she wasn't the real deal, I would still tell you guys. No, but she really is. She loves physicians, and we are so glad. Like, we consider it an honor to be able to bring life change like this and transformations, and people are starting to look at, wow, I have so many options. That's really a huge honor for us, and we are grateful that you took this time to be with us here tonight. So let's keep the conversation going. Hope to see many of you at tomorrow's orientation. Thank you for your time tonight. Have a good night, everyone.
All right, good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.